It certainly seems relevant to me that if we're talking about open access, we should be worrying about linking to other open things. This is an initiative that's trying to free a lot of data, and of course the obvious thing to do is to try and link it with all the publications. If you look at this page at the W3C, you'll find there's a very large picture there. DBpedia in the middle there is a linked data version, a semantic web version of Wikipedia. So of course we should be able to do all sorts of linkage. These are all the number of sites that are linking data between them. So as Wendy was saying, the interesting thing is to have lots of data, expose it, and then be able to link between them. So I showed this before. Hopefully it's now the network and everything's up and running. So just an example of the sort of thing that you might do is, as I said, this isn't a semantic web project. This is a let's try looking for Web Science as a publication. As you can see, I've looked before. So I'm interested in something like the framework for Web Science, and I should be able to see information about that paper. I might want to see related papers, which are here, who are the people involved, which projects. I might even want to see what organizations, I suppose. And this is using all that linked data stuff behind. I'm just showing it because you're welcome to come and try it. You can see the URI up there and explore it for yourselves, which is a much more effective way of doing these things. Actually, you might also be interested in another paper. Let's see what happens there. It gets a bit messy, but what you'll be able to see now is, for example, the Semantic Web Revisited is clearly a paper that joins the framework for web science with creating the science of the web. So we might want to browse into there. Or you might want to find out about Tim Berners-Lee. And so, because we know about his publications, we know what he's interested in, from other places like the NSF data, we can tell you what projects he's involved with, what organizations. He clearly works with Danny Weitzner, as you would expect. And basically, over here, it's not actually in English, but we shouldn't worry about that too much. That description, does anyone you can hazard a guess where that comes from? We're actually dynamically querying the Wikipedia article to find out more information about Tim Berners-Lee. Unfortunately, we seem to have chosen the Scandinavian language to display it in. We could have done English, but I haven't switched that on. So basically, there's a lot of open data out there. It's all getting linked together. Now that we can do the linking with the Open Archive and so on, we should be really able to do interesting stuff, looking at co-authors and all sorts of relationships and working in the same institution and all that sort of stuff, which gives a lot of leverage to the data that everybody's, and the metadata that everybody's putting down. So I've kept that very brief because I took up your time before, but it's probably better if there are any questions about it.
So, you said we can read the secret URL. We can't actually. Can you?
There you go. That's the URL.
rkdexplorer.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Hugh. Right. The partner. Thank you.
Hello everybody. I introduced myself earlier. I'm a doctoral student first year, so I don't really have much to say, but I do have a lot to ask. Because as being a novice in the academic community, there are a lot of questions. First of all, I thought that writing a position here would be a prerequisite for attending this workshop. Apparently it's not. So now I'm really nervous because there's so many people. But hopefully some of the questions I ask will be useful and will probably have some interesting discussions later. I'm not going to cover everything. The main things that I'm going to cover is basically ownership of the academic knowledge and the relationship between the different agencies that are involved in disseminating this kind of knowledge. Also, I'm going to just talk briefly about the cultural context and how that is being affected with global communication. And lastly, I'm going to ask something about plagiarism, something that has come up very recently, very personally to a friend of mine back in my university. So I'll just begin by asking the question about ownership. I think we've talked kind of briefly about the whole issue of co-construction of knowledge and how that affects who can say this is my knowledge, this is my work. We all know that not only the rate of exchange of information and knowledge is changing, but also the nature itself is quite different. And as you can see, there's a lot of more academic publications that are being co-authored and stuff, and not just with more authors, but different, I would say I don't think kind is a word, but a different nature of knowledge. And one of the questions I'm asking is who qualifies that new kind of knowledge to be legitimate? Because I don't know if you've read Michael Gibbons. He argues that the new kind of knowledge, which he calls mode 2, which I don't really agree to, because when you classify something as mode 1, mode 2, it's bound to be outdated. But who qualifies this new kind of knowledge to be legitimate, and whether the old structures of academic disciplines are going to be like, oh, okay, this is acceptable, because most of his colleagues argue that they were rejected by the old models of academic community. And also about a little bit, another question that I have is, as a student writing an essay or a dissertation, I think we kind of fear putting out what we're writing on, especially if you're a doctoral student. There are a lot of websites where you can share your research interest and what you're working on. But there's also the fear that if you put it out there and someone's going to copy it, so how do we stop that from happening? I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous of somebody copying your idea, but it does happen. And I think it's a shame, because it's quite a precious opportunity for us doctoral students to share our work. But on the other hand, we want to risk our 2, 3, 4, 5 years of work by just putting out there. The next question I have is about culture. I'm sure there are a lot of you who would argue that knowledge is embedded in a culture context. But with the new advent of the new kinds of communication, is it making knowledge more culturally contextualized or more decontextualized? The other day, we had a presentation in my department about Japanese digital natives in Japan and how they qualify them belonging to the world and them belonging to Japanese citizens, and how it's actually not just the phenomena is not shifting from one to the other, but both ways. So for me, that question is really interesting and how that's happening. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the publishing industry and plagiarism. I think the whole question of intellectual freedom is quite intriguing when it comes to the web, because I mean anybody can go on and write all kinds of stuff on the internet, and especially if you are a professor or a doctor, people will be like, oh, this is legitimate knowledge. But who actually controls that and who actually reviews that? Because there are no reviews for blogs and stuff, except for just critical reviews on not more content, but I mean there are more argument style feedback. Also, the last thing